Hello and welcome everybody to our today's online academy. So today's topic is all about article designer basic functions. And today we will mainly talk about how to properly align dividers and drawers, for example, to different sides. So there are maybe some functions that you to this point don't know, and we will take a look at it. So what I'm going to do in this online academy is first I will explain the settings or the setting options on a simple article, so just an example article, and then we are going to implement the new knowledge about article designer on a real example. So first of all, let's take a look what we want to do today. I'm going to start the article designer so that we can see what we want to talk about. And today we will focus on 3 topics. And topics are about the following settings. So we have these checkboxes here. And yeah, we are going to talk about the part orientation. So what is edge 1 and what is the reference edge? Then we are going to talk about the orientation, so the first and the second element for the division. And last but not least, we are going to talk about drawer elements, so what is first drawer and last drawer element for. Yeah, and we are going to learn what these checkboxes are for and what we can use it for. First of all, we are going to start with the part orientation. Yeah, and what I'm going to do for my article that I'm going to insert some construction principles so that we can see what we want to do. So I'm going to insert top shelf, bottom shelf, left side panel, right side panel, and maybe also a back panel. And next I'm going to insert some fixed shelves with an inset of 100 millimeters. So why I'm going to enter here 100 millimeters we will see later on in this online academy. But first of all I have to create a new construction principle because I don't have a principle with an inset of 100 millimeters. So that is what I'm going to do first. I switch to the dividers and drawers. Here we get the shelves. And the part type for sure shouldn't be virtual, it should be fixed shelves. And then we have to take a look at the construction principle for the divider, because at the moment I got a fixed shelf with no inset. So that is what I'm going to change. And I'm going to open the element manager with a 3-point button. Yeah, now I'm going to take a look at the delivery data if there's maybe a construction principle with an inset of 100 millimeters, but yeah, no construction principle, so I have to create my own construction principle. And as you already know, if you want to edit or if you want to create a new construction principle, always take a look at the delivery data, because as always you want as little work as possible. So maybe there is something that you can change with just a few clicks. And that's why I'm going to take a look. We got some different principles here. This one is maybe is for a back inset, but I'm going to need a front inset, and that's this one. So front inset of 20 millimeters. And this one I can edit. And for sure it shouldn't be 20, it should be 100 millimeters. Then I'm going to save it. And first of all move it to my own folder so that I can find it more easily. And now I have to change the offset in the front, which is still 20 millimeters. And in this case it should be 100. Yeah, remember, if you want to edit or create new construction principles, always change the name so that you get a copy of the original one, because then you always have a clean template which you can use for other principles. Okay, that's fine for me. I'm going to apply it, and then for sure I need a first linear division, which in this case just can be 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. So I get 3 fixed shelves. So the first thing what we are going to do now is that we are going to build this article up in drawing space. So I'm going to save the article, and I'm going to call it Online Academy Article Designer 1. Doesn't have to be a specific name. And then I build it up so that we can check where now the first edge of our construction, our fixed shelf is, because that's what we want to check first. So when I now do a click on the right button, on the right mouse button, I can select the edges, and then I can select a specific edge, for example this one, and confirm it with a click on the right mouse button. Yeah, and as it should be, edge 1 is in the front of my fixed shelf, and now this means that the fixed shelf is referenced to my front element. Yeah, and it also says that the inset is orientated also to the front. So edge 1 and my inset is referenced to my front element, so to the door. This fact we can change because every group has one reference object which the other parts of the article designer group align to. Normally, when you start the article designer in top view, the reference object is always the front element, so the door. I can show you what I mean. So I'm going to modify the article. And when we now take a look at the front element, which we didn't insert, then we can see that we have our checkboxes here for the part orientation and the orientation. And as you can see, the 4 boxes are checked. As I said, every time when you start the article designer, the front element is always the reference object. Yeah, and this means that the other parts, or the dividers in this case, align to the front element. But what we can do is that we can switch the part orientation, so we can give another element the edge 1 checkbox, and that is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to switch to the right side panel, for example, and now I'm going to set the hook inside of edge 1, and then we check what happens. So when I say edge 1 in the part orientation, and then we take a look at the front element again, and now you can see as soon as you check the edge 1 box in another construction principle, it disappears in the original one, because you just can have one element which is edge 1, or also the reference edge. But first of all, let's check what now happened. As soon as we say the edge 1 should be aligned to the right side panel, you can see automatically another edge is marked. Just one moment, this graphic error. I have to delete this one. And now again, I'm going to select the edge. And let's start with this one. This was edge 1 before, but now I think it should be edge 4. Yeah, and that's the case. And now as you can see, when I go back, select the edge and select this one, now this is edge 1, because we said inside of the right side panel it should be the reference object for our fixed shelf. And so you can see the edge 1 has aligned to my right side panel. So that's the first thing. The next one, what I want to show you is the reference edge. So we switch again to the right side panel. And now we are going to take a look what happens if we set the hook inside of the checkbox reference edge. And what you can see now is that the part inside of our cabinet has rotated. And now also for the reference edge, the right side panel is the reference object. And now you also can see that the reference edge and edge 1 are parallel again. Yeah, because this is not an example for everyday work. You may ask, what do I need this stuff like that for? And this is what I'm going to show you next. For example, if we have a cabinet that should be usable from both sides. Therefore we can use this. But first I'm going to switch again to the front element, so it should be edge 1 and reference edge again. So everything's normal. And now I'm going to insert a partition instead of fixed shelves. So division should be partition. And here we don't need 3 partitions, just 1. And then we are going to increase the depth of our cabinet to 1000. And now, as I said, the cabinet should be usable from both sides. That means that we have to rotate the partition inside of the article, and we don't need the back panel anymore. So I'm going to delete the back panel. And now I want to rotate the partition. We have seen that we can rotate it with edge 1 and reference edge, but there is another way that I want to show you next. And this would be the function first element for division. So the first element for division also needs a reference part, which in this case is the front panel, so door. But we also can switch it, for example, to the left side panel, because here we also have the checkbox in the orientation, which says first element for division. And if I set the hook inside of this checkbox, you can see my partition is rotated. So now you know the reference object is the left side panel. When we switch to the 2D preview, we also can see this symbol when we activate the dividers, and this symbol shows you how your dividers are referenced inside of your article. But we will see that later again. And now we have a front article designer group and a back article designer group. And here we now can insert our fixed shelves again. So for the front part, it's pretty easy because I just have to go to the dividers. Let's check inside of the box. As you can see, as soon as I set the first element for division to the left side panel, you automatically see that all the checkboxes inside of the front element are unchecked. And now we can check the left side panel, the imaginary left side panel in this article designer group, and you can see that this is the reference object. But that's not good for our example. That's why I'm going to switch to the front element first and check all the hooks here. And now I can insert my fixed shelves. So again, division type is shelf, and here we have the shelf fixed shelves with a front inset of 100 millimeters. And now maybe a little hint. Let's say we want 9 fixed shelves inside of this article designer group. Then we would have to write 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 and so on. So 10 times 1. But there is a little trick how we can do it in another way. So what I'm going to do is, if I want 9 fixed shelves, then I first have to write the number of zones. So if you have 9 fixed shelves, then you have 10 zones. So I'm going to insert 10. And then on your keyboard, you can insert curled brackets that look like this. And then you have to insert 1, and you have to close the curled bracket again. So 10, curled bracket open, 1, curled bracket close. And now you get 9 fixed shelves with the same distance between them. Yeah, and as I said, for the front, it's pretty easy. Now we are going to copy this article designer group, and we are going to paste it inside of the back. And what we can see now is that the inset is not in the front, but in the back. And yeah, now we have to change this fact, and we learned before how we can do that. So for our front group, the door was the reference object, and now for our back group, for sure, the back panel is the reference object. So now we have to set the hooks for edge 1, reference edge, and to be sure also for the first and the second linear division. And now, as you can see, it looks better this way. I'm going to build it up in the drawing space so that we can check if everything worked fine. Again, the little graphical error. Let's check in realistic, and it looks good from both sides. Okay, that worked pretty well. Then we can go on with the next setting option, which is called the orientation. So I'm going to modify the article again. Just a quick example what we can do with the orientation. I'm going to delete the complete article designer group. So I'm going to clear the zones, because now I can make sure that everything is set to the standard. And then I'm going to edit the depth again, top shelf, bottom shelf, left side, right side panel, and the back panel. And next, I'm going to insert a partition again. Partition 1 to 1. Okay, what we have seen before is that we can rotate a part inside of the article with edge 1 and reference edge, but we also can rotate a part inside of the article with the first or the second element for the division. And that's what we want to do now. So first of all, I'm going to switch it just with the first element for a division. Likewise to the example before. And now we take a look again to the divider, because here we have a field for the first linear division. And we have a second field for the second linear division, but it's not activated yet. So I can't enter any values inside of here. I'm going to switch to the 2D preview first so that we can see what happens. To activate the second linear division, we have to change the definition type. So the definition type in this case shouldn't be perpendicular, but it should be second division. And as soon as you check the second division, you can see that the second linear division is activated, and now I can enter values here. And what you also recognize is that instead of one symbol, you now have two symbols, because you now also have two linear divisions that you can insert values for. So let's say, for example, the second linear division should be 100 millimeters to 1. That's not a real example, but just to show you what happens, because now you have two imaginary reference points. The first reference point is 1 to 1, what you can see here. Maybe I can make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, I think that's better. So 1 to 1 is for the left side panel, because in the left side panel we said it should be the first element for the division. And the 100 millimeter to 1 you can see here is for the back panel. So when I select the back panel, yeah, correct, the hook is checked for the second element for the division. And now what you can do is that you can try it out. So maybe this should be the second element for division. And as you can see, as soon as you switch the hooks, you also can see that your partition automatically changed. So basically, it's a useful function, but I don't want to spend much time with this one, so I'm going on directly to the next function, which is for the drawer elements, and what is maybe at the beginning a little bit more interesting. So back to the 3D preview. And again, I'm going to clear all the zones. And we are going to build up a little bit different article. So 600 in the height, depth can be 800, width can be 800, and depth should be 1000. So similar to the cabinet, this little box also should be usable from both sides. So I want to insert 4 drawers. First of all, top shelf, bottom shelf, left side and right side panel. And again, I'm going to insert a partition with the linear division 1 to 1. Here again, I have to rotate the part, so I select the side panel, and the side panel, the left side panel, should be the first element for the division. Okay, then we can insert our drawers. So I'm going to the first article designer group, and again, make sure where the hooks are checked, because if I now automatically insert 2 drawers, so 1 to 1, then you can see that the drawers are orientated wrong. And that's the reason what I described before, because as soon as you say that your left side panel is the first element for the division, it's also the reference object for your article designer groups. So you have to make sure that inside of your article designer group, the orientation and the part orientation is set inside of the front element. So set the hooks. But now you see nothing has changed. And therefore we have the third setting option, which is drawer elements. And now we also have to set the hooks inside of drawer elements for the front element. It could be, now you have 2 options. You can say for the front it should be the first and the last, but you also could say the front should be the first and the back panel should be the last drawer element. Would work both. And now you can see the drawers are orientated correct. I'm going to copy the group again and paste it to the other group. Same problem as before. The drawers are orientated not in the correct way, and that's why I have to select the back panel in this group, edge 1, reference edge, first element for the division, second, first drawer element, and last drawer element. And then you can make sure that everything works in the correct way. Let's check the result. And yeah, I would say looks good. The drawers are inserted correctly, so every setting worked fine. Yeah, as I said, these are not everyday work examples, and that's why we are going to use the knowledge that we gathered through this online academy for a real example, and therefore I have prepared a small order, which in this case is a sloped ceiling cabinet. So open order, article designer, that's the correct one. And what we can see here now is, as I said, a sloped ceiling cabinet, and the main article, so this one, is created in the front view. And what I want to do now is I want to insert a sub-article in this zone, and the sub-article should be created in the top view. And therefore I can use the options that we learned inside of the Online Academy. So I'm going to start with the article in the top view. But before I can do this, I have to know how big the zone is. So first of all, I'm going to modify the article so that I can check the values. And here we have our dividers and drawers. Here is the article designer group for the sub-article. And here you can see the dimensions. So we have 2212 in the height and 500 for width and depth. So I can close the article again, and now I can start the article designer in top view. And I can insert the values that I have seen, 2212 and 500 for width and depth. So now we've got a special case, because if we now want to insert the left side panel and the right side panel, it would be not correct if we choose the real left and right side panel, because in this case the left side panel would be in the back of the article. So let me show you at the example. So if I would insert left and right side panel, here would be the left side panel and the right side panel would be in the front. That's why I have to do a little trick. In this case, the front should be the left side panel and the back panel should be the right side panel. That's why I have to insert a door and a back panel first, because now we can switch in the elements between door and side panel. So here we have the left side panel, and for the back, again, element type is side panel, and it should be a right side panel. Okay. So, but that's not enough. We have to check some other settings, like the trims and the connection situation, because nothing works normally in this article because we switched nearly everything. So we have to check these settings by ourselves. So let's start with the side panel. First of all, we check the trims, because the trims now orientate to the original part. So here the trims are set for a door, as you can see, short for every option, and for the back panel, for example, everything is perpendicular. So this is what we have to change first. So for a side panel, it should be previous to the previous trims, it should be long, to the next it should be short, and long for the top shelf and for the bottom shelf. We also can insert an offset, so in this case an inset to the top and bottom shelf of 2 millimeters. And the same thing we have to do for the right side panel. So long, short, to the top shelf and bottom shelf also long, and offset to the back of 2 millimeters. These are the settings for the trims, but now we still need a connection situation, because normally the top shelf and the bottom shelf inherit the connection situation, but not for this case. That's why we have to insert our own connection situation. And this is the third column, so connection situation, and here we can inherit a connector to the top and the bottom shelf. I'm just going to use the dowels. When you click on these folder sign, you will get routed to the element manager, and you can choose one of your connection situation that you would like to. Same for the right side panel. Okay, that's for the connection situation. Then we can go on with the dividers. And in this case, I'm going to insert fixed shelves again. But this time without an inset. To check if I have a construction principle without inset. Yes, there is one. Okay, and here we have a little special linear division, 800 millimeters to 273. To 273 to 1 and to 520 millimeters. So I tested that before to make sure everything works. Okay, and now in the lower part, or in the lower article zone, I want a door, and here I want 2 drawers. So these are examples for the settings that we have seen previous. So I'm going to start with the lowest article designer group, and I'm going to insert a door, sorry. But make sure it's not the symbol for the door, because we also have changed the left side and the right side panel. So in this case, the door would be the right side panel, the original right side panel, if you want to say it so. And I'm going to insert it. And also here I have to switch the type, the element type, because it's not a side panel, it's a door. And then I'm going to switch to an insert door. And let's check the result first. I'm going to save it as Online Academy sloped ceiling cabinet sub-article. And as you can see, at the moment everything works fine. The door is orientated correctly. Then we can modify the article again, and we can go on with the drawers. So next article designer group, dividers and drawers. I'm going to insert 1 drawer. And now you can see again the drawer is orientated in the wrong way, but we know how we can fix it. We switch to the right side element, which is in this case the front, and we say first drawer element and last drawer element. One little thing that I have forgotten, what I can show you, my bad. First I'm going to switch to insert, then I'm going to show you what I mean. Let's build up again the article. Okay, so draw is correct, but something that is still missing is this one, select edge. And here you can see the front edge is edge 2. So I forgot to rotate the first edge and the reference edge, and that is what I have to do. because otherwise it would be wrong inside of our part list. So I have to go to the first article designer group, and here again the right side panel should be the edge one and the reference edge. And now I think everything should be fine. I can go on with the article designer group for the next drawer. I just simply copy it and paste it. Save the change, and then we can check the result again. Okay, this looks good. Don't know what is wrong with these markments. Okay, so let's check. Select edge, and now it's correct. So now we got edge 1 in the front. Okay, last thing for today is how we can insert the sub-article inside of our main article. Pretty easy if you know how to do it. I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to modify my main article. Yeah, and like I said, it's not that difficult, so I'm going to open up the dividers and drawers, and then I switch to the article designer group, and here to the dividers and drawers, and inside of the division I have the option article zone, and that is what I'm going to need. So I'm going to insert an article zone, and now the field has activated, and with a click on the 3-point button I get routed to the article center, and here I can search for my sub-article, which is under Online Academy Article Designer. There it is. And then I just have to click on the green hook, save the change, now get one cam connection that is missing, but should not be the topic of today. And as we can see, everything works fine. So I get my doubles here for the top shelf and for the bottom shelf, and also my door and my drawers are inserted. Okay, yeah, that's everything for today for Article Designer Basics. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, if you have topics for new online academies, just let us know. Until then, have a good time and see you for the next online academy. Bye bye.